Hey everybody, it's Michael DeVue here at the Fearless Road Podcast Studios, welcoming you once again to a new episode. And in this week's episode, we are talking to Cindy Austin, love expert and guru, about her fearless journey. It's interesting because as a love expert who counsels on relationships, designed a specific relationship program called Lip Sync in order to bring people and humans together. Her journey is very interesting because during that journey, as a love expert, she was going through a very bitter and difficult and challenging divorce. This puts such an interesting spin and perspective on it, which I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate to, having been in the midst of a breakup, in the midst of a relationship that had gone sour, and having to maintain a sense of pride and integrity. So the courage that it took for her to turn her life's messes into her message led to the birth of Lip Sync Tuned In, Turned On, Transformative Dating. She discusses challenging aspects of relationships and provides valuable insights into overcoming fear, the power of choice, and the significance of authenticity and self-love. I hope you find this episode timely in this season, this holiday season. You see my little Christmas tree over here. In this holiday season of love and giving and joy, I think it's going to be a poignant and interesting conversation, and I'm happy to be providing a little bit of this message with the incredible Cindy Austin. Please enjoy. Oh, and remember, like, subscribe, follow. Oh, by the way, coming up this February, I should have made this announcement earlier. Coming up this February, the Fearless Road is producing its very first event. It will be Leadership Navigator 2024, an empowering and transformative event for female entrepreneurs and executives and leaders. I'm very excited to be producing this event. I think it's going to be incredible. We've got a lineup of amazing panelists discussing some of the most impactful topics for 2024 in business and leadership. And I think it's going to be a very interesting set of conversations. You should check it out. Go to our website, go to our Facebook page if you'd like, and you'll find information there on Leadership Navigator 2024. And without any further ado, what is a do? Does anybody know what a do is? I don't know what a don't is. Anyway, Cindy Austin, Fearless Road. Stay fearless. Bye. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fearless Road podcast. If you've been here before, you know the deal. We talk to entrepreneurs, business professionals, amazing people about their life on their journey towards success. Through the valleys and then up finally to the mountain where it looks like success can be made and can be had. But what we do really focus on is fear. And we like to talk about how fear shapes us and how fear impacts our lives as business people, as entrepreneurs, as thought leaders, executives, and things like that, visionaries. Because fear is a component of, I believe fear is a crucial component of success in our lives. And I believe that it is something that if we can turn it into a tool and fuel, it can really propel us into areas of our lives that we may not have gone before, A, and B, that we didn't know we could. And taking those challenges on is something I feel like entrepreneurs do every single day. And we are at the forefront of this territory. Somebody else at the forefront of this territory, doing some incredible work, by the way, with love, is the incredible Cindy Austin, with over 22 years as a licensed counselor, teacher, mentor, coach, specializing in romance, coupling, dating, relationships, and of course her new program. I just forgot the name of it. The new program that you've got.
Lip Sync.
Lip Sync. Yes. Gosh. Well, this is part of the reason why I need help. Her new program, Lip Sync, for couples. She helps others discover how to define their own happiness. And when it comes to love and relationships, she not only holds your hand, but she holds you accountable. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's welcome Cindy Austin.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
I know. It's only taken us, like 6 months to finally get to this. So when I first spotted you on the Speaker Lab, and ladies and gentlemen, most of you, if you've been listening along, you obviously know that I'm part of Speaker Lab. Speaker Lab is an incredible organization that helps us find our voice and then turn that into a message for the world. It's super super amazing. But what's really cool about it is all the people that you meet on the Speaker Lab, and just some smart, incredible people. And Cindy was one of the very first people. I think I noticed you back in February. I was like, I need to like mark you. So I tagged your profile for me and put it into my CRM, like pay attention to her and, get her involved and see if you can get her on the show. But then when I saw what you were doing with Lip Sync and with Love, I was like, oh, wow. If fear doesn't come up in your life at all, lucky you. If it comes to love, fear is there. Like there's these two things walk, hand in hand on that cute little beach where we're trying to take a romantic Instagram picture. So tell us, for those of us who obviously don't know enough about you and what you do and where you come from, Austin Empowered is the business and is what you do and where you provide it. And I believe you're also in Austin, Texas.
Yes, it is. A little play on the...
It's a little Austin squared. Take us a little down the journey of the road that got you here and share with us some of that backstory so we can get to know you a little bit better.
Well, thank you. And I noticed you too at the beginning. You're a bright light of the Speaker Lab, and people that are, busy and doing their things are the people that organization really attracts. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
And I'd started really the Lip Sync. I've been a therapist, licensed professional counselor for almost 25 years now, and in private practice for about 22. And when I went through my own divorce, it was, I think I was, 12 years married, my second marriage. So here I am, a relationship expert, raised cradle Catholic. You cannot get divorced in that world. And I'd already done it once. I was really doubling down on the second one, going to make sure it worked. And
come hell or high water.
That's right. And I had 2 kids with the second person. So I was like, this is really the thing that I want to focus on, the thing that I want to make this work. And when it didn't work, it was not sustainable. I was devastated. You talk about fear, devastated. Oh, so I went through a lot of shame, guilt, blame, frustration, fear, anger, anguish, all of the above. And then when I finally got through the divorce and dusted myself off and kind of caught my breath, I went back out to start dating and realized it was a shit show.
So out there, the dating scene was a shit show.
It was a shit show dating. And so I did the normal whining, puling, complaining, gnashing of teeth with all my friends about how bad it was. And then I went, wait a minute, I can do something about this. And so I started to pour everything I had into the program and what my knowledge, my experience, and then I researched the hell out of it. And for probably a good 6 to 7 months, just read everything I could get my hands on. And then came up with this program, Lip Sync. Tuned in, turned on Transformative Dating, and really has been a wonderful way to turn my mess into a message.
And I think that's the first place I heard that. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. I was waiting for this gym.
Yes, it did. I turned my mess
into a message. I thought that when I heard it, I was like, oh, why didn't I get that? When we're in the Speaker Lab, we all have to design our expert positioning statement and our why. And it's so fun to watch people discover what that is for themselves. But when they nail it, like when they land on something,
yes,
you're like, oh, that's golden.
You can tell the coin just drops. You can go, boom, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was very not jealous because I already have, Making Fear Your Friend and The Fearless Road, which just really sort of landed sweet for me because I was very lucky and blessed that these things just sometimes in my life, whether it's God or the universe lining up or whatever, it just comes straight through me and out my mouth and it's good. Sometimes it comes straight through me out my mouth and it's not. When I was younger, that's when I got the back of the hand. But today, when it comes straight through me, typically I get some pretty cool stuff. But when I heard Make Your Mess Your Message, I thought I gotta find a way to use that. And I think that's what we do at the Fearless Road is we look at our mess, we look at the messy places and the hard places, we look at the valleys, that we take and have to travel through in order before we get to the mountain, the top of the mountain, the bragging and all that bold, beautiful stuff at the top of the mountain that people get to do. It's wonderful. It's awesome. Congratulations. We will celebrate your successes here on this road. That is what we do. But we celebrate the small steps. We celebrate. Because celebrate. Yep. Sorry, I digress. We celebrate those small little steps because tackling a mountain, it is the small step every way. It's 10,000 steps, it's 20,000 steps, 40,000 steps to get to these places. And most of the time when you're reading that a magazine article or you're watching that podcast and you're seeing somebody stand there and brag in front of their Learjet or with their beautiful 8 cars or whatever it is that they're doing because they're successful now, you didn't get to see the 10,000 steps, the arduousness and the getting in the dirt and sweating and breaking your back and crying and bleeding for the business, your business. The mess, yep. Exactly. The mess that makes up the message. You don't get to see all of that. And this is where we explore a little bit further what that looks like. So speaking of which, now that we know a little background story, but I want to know your OG story on fear. Where and when in your life do you realize? So I looked back, like I took my time, I looked back because I did some introspection and stuff and looked back at my life. This was when I was looking at trying to figure out my why, trying to figure out my positioning statement, was I had to figure out what made me tick differently than everybody else. And the things people were saying about my life in terms of how I landed on my feet, how I pivot, how I reinvent myself, how I handle tragedy, all of those different things was coming through to me that I was doing something different than everybody else. And I needed to figure out what it was and why. And that's when I figured out that my relationship with fear and my relationship, what I would say now with risk, was very different than a lot of other people. And as a result, I think I made different choices and as a result got different results. So for you, do you have an origin story about when you were with fear in your life and how it's impacted and shaped the path you have taken?
You know, it comes back to this story about when I had to go through this divorce with children, but I was, again, raised in Texas on a cattle ranch with one sister and 5 brothers.
Oh
no.
God, how did you get a husband? I'm surprised your brothers allowed you. They'd probably take him out back and beat him to death just to make sure they made a point, you know?
Well, but it was a Catholic family and it was very much patriarchal. Yeah. And so the message, I got was your worth is if somebody, a man was going to like you.
Right. Well, yes.
And, so I was like, okay, I guess that's just the way it is. And then when I started to grow through a lot of great therapy, so the first place of facing fear was going to get therapy out of a family that was Catholic. You just pray about it. Turn that shit over to God and it should work out.
Have you spoken to Jesus lately?
I know it, exactly. So when I really actually got therapy, I was like, wait, these might be my people. They're telling the truth. They're risking, being mad. Don't do that, or being nervous or being human.
You mean you get to express your emotions and your feelings publicly in front of somebody without being shamed, guilted, or punished for it?
Concept.
A new concept.
So, yeah. So therapy was a huge fear place of I had to do something different. And then it was like this awesome gift. So then I thought I had it all figured out, air quotes. And so I picked my first partner. And I really think when I look back, Michael, I was really afraid I wasn't going to get chosen.
Well,
I was 31 and I was in graduate school and I was like, oh shit. I thought this just was going to work out. Maybe it doesn't. And so a person came along that really thought I was cool. And so I pretended I don't think I pretended. I really thought it was cool. But the message I'd been given was, you just need to get somebody to desire you and like you. We don't really care what you think or what or need.
No, not at all.
That's not really relevant to the
Please
formula.
Just be an empty shell for the love of another.
Yes. And just, and just be the martyr almost. And we want you to be happy, but not really.
But not too happy.
Not too happy. Just make sure he's happy.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And so when I had that first divorce, that was a ton of fear and a ton of risk and a ton of shame in my family. And they ended up deciding not to, exile me. And so we all made it through that. And they ended up being great through that. And then I got into the second relationship and I'd known this person before. So ding dong, hello. And went back to this person. But like I tell a lot of people I work with, there are no mistakes. Everything can be added to who you are, amplify who you are. And so I went in, with this person and we have 2 amazing children and they're I went, that was the way to go. It was awesome. Until I was like, oh, wait. So when we went on our first date and you were just talking at me, I was excited because you were laughing, you were telling stories, and I thought it was so fun, but I didn't recognize the preposition at me, not with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that continued to show up as I continued in my path. And then as I continued to do my work and grow, I recognized that he and I had very different expectations for what marriage was supposed to be. And when I really had enough sense of self to stand up for it, I said, we need to do something different. And he filed for divorce. And so you talk about fear, what it was doing to me, what it was going to do to my children. They were 8 and 10, what it was going to do to my finances. I had been working only part-time, taking care of kids. So I was flooded with fear and pretty much paralyzed by it. Like, I don't have the money he makes. He ran his own firm, had a CPA, lots of money. He knew all of that stuff. Basically, my divorce was a master's degree in finance because I knew nothing before this shit started. I was like, what?
Which is, so typical with women, the whole...
Well, the patriarchal family,
yes,
it's like...
But the whole paradigm around, marriage and why it's so fearful to get divorced and why it's such a disaster if it happens isn't because of you and isn't because of your partner. It's because a system was designed to make it so difficult for you to walk away, to make it so difficult for you to be happy in it, that you're stuck with all this residual fallout from a thing you didn't even create that you're stuck with now. And you have to deal with, on top of, by the way, the emotional baggage and the emotional damage done by these choices, right? Now you add all of that together, right? You stir it up into a beautiful soup pot of dysfunction, dependency, codependency, and bullshit because we don't know how to have good, it's true. We don't know how to have good relationships, let alone with ourselves. That's the problem is we're not invited to know ourselves. We're invited to change ourselves. We're invited to be something different for somebody, but we're rewarded for changing and conforming for everybody else, but never for yourself. So
up until now, as I like to say.
Hey, right? Because what? Austin Empowered's in the house, and we're about to bring some change here at the Fearless Road.
Yay.
Very excited. So, okay. Well, then with that in mind, you're an entrepreneur, but you're an entrepreneur in love, relationships, counseling in that particular area. You're a female entrepreneur, a successful one who, by the way, has not only recovered from the losses and the damage and the difficulty of the divorce and the changes that brought forward, but as a female entrepreneur, especially in today's age, and with what you know as a therapist, do you have a philosophy on entrepreneurship that you could share?
Yeah, a philosophy about it, I don't know if it could count. I don't know if it gets that level of, stature.
Authority.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, it was really about being able to be creative and not have to, I had been a teacher for 7 years, Michael, and then had been an administrator, school counselor. And if we were going to have one more, everybody agreed to that last week, didn't anything get done meeting and nothing got done, I was going to come unglued. So for me, the responsibility and the creativity are both sides of the coin, and being able to create a program and have a practice and do live calls with people that are dating and create a community around it and play pickleball a lot. To be able to do the things I wanted to do, the engine of that gave me so much creativity and so much of my ability to go straight forward and not have to wait to catch people up. So for me, it's been really wonderful in the spontaneity, creativity arena. There is the part where responsibility, like you were saying earlier when we were talking, like, who's going to get the CRM to work? Sorry, I don't like that part. There's that part too. But I have learned a ton in the process. I mean, it's been a wonderful education process.
Sorry, my Outlook was on. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Please make that note. If you ever detect, turn off your notification.
I did.
Nothing's more authentic than the sound of a notification in the background because you just don't have your SHIT together. But it's okay. This area of love, this juncture, if you will, this where love meets fear and where relationships meet change. I don't know what all this is, but if you can't see me, ladies and gentlemen, I'm doing a lot. I'm bringing in airplanes. That's what I'm doing. Why this area? Like, why love and romance? Why this is a hard place, for a lot of people to be, let alone express themselves, because we're not encouraged to be vulnerable, which is what I think we're changing things. Brene Brown, thank you very much. Bringing change and asking for vulnerability, encouraging compassion and sharing. Is there something in this particular arena that A, excites you, but B, that you see from your perspective that's different than the rest of us might not be catching on to?
That's a great question. When I sit, I get the privilege of sitting with couples at various stages of success, stress, or duress. And so I've watched for years, and you can come down to some basics that people miss, skills that they did not get along the way. And so when you go into the dating world, which I was thrust back into, and you recognize that I've done this wrong twice. I picked two partners and really thought I knew what I was doing. And I was very conscious and present and all that. And I realized, no, not. And so dropping the water level on our consciousness is what this program is designed to do. And picture like the tip of the iceberg. And that's really where we think, that that's all we need. But when we drop the water level and we get to our stories, our unconscious traumas and things that have happened to us that we just locked away and exiled or compartmentalized with a Tupperware that we actually could find the lid to and that fits, keep it over there. When you drop that water level and you begin to really look at what those unconscious beliefs, thoughts,
biases,
fears are, then you can begin to do something about them. And then that's the beautiful thing about what I think the Fearless Road does, is it talks about, it highlights the space of choice. I have a choice here. I recognize fear is happening. It's like you said, we got to have it. It's quite the motivator.
Can be. Oh, absolutely. Whether you think it's motivating you or not, it's 100% motivating you. Now, if you're being motivated by fear in a direction to run away, that's one way. If you're being motivated by the fear in a direction to run towards something, totally different. But you need to be aware that that's what's happening. And if you're not aware, this is what happened to me last year when I was going through this and I realized I had been asleep at the wheel of my life. I had been accidentally stumbling into my success because I had already adopted and brought on board several habits of adapting to change, because my life was chaos when I was growing up and there was a lot of things that were going on. So adapting to change was a gift I learned to do very quickly. Proved to be the one thing that I thought, oh no, I'm not going to let this define me. I'm not going to let that define me. I'm not going to let that define me. The act of not letting it define me defined me. So guess what? 53 later, you were defined by those things. You were defined by that fear. You were shaped by the influence that it had on the choices you made throughout your life. Now, some of those choices were great and I did a good job with them. Some of them were not very good and my family knows about those. But, I think when we're out here and we're realizing that, like you said, choice is a huge part of it. If we can please remember that in every moment of every day of your life, you have the option to choose immediately in that moment who and what you want to be when you show up there, right? And it's just the next second in front of you, just the next choice, not just the next step. And if you can think about who you want to be when you step with integrity into that space, then I think that can be a big game changer for a lot of us.
The important piece that I have found, though, is you can notice that you're having a fearful response, which takes a lot of what I call noticing what you're noticing. It's a huge piece.
Yep.
But what you're speaking to, I just love. And because I know enough about you now to know that you have figured this piece out, is that once you recognize the fear, it's like, hold up, hi fear, how you doing? What you got for me? Instead of letting it propel you into something that it always does, you actually have befriended fear, and said, hey, what's up, fear? And then I'm going to put you in the back seat, though. You cannot take the wheel. You get to come, but you're not in charge of what I'm doing next. And I call that, for me, the sacred pause.
Sacred pause.
Really, being really able to notice, well, I'm having a reaction. But like you said so well earlier, I didn't even know to pay attention to myself.
Yes.
I was told, what do y'all need? Okay, what do y'all need? And did I smile big enough? Are you happy with that? Okay, good. Did I cheer loud enough at the football game that y'all are all watching? So I guess I need to like football, which I actually turned out I did, but it wasn't really asked.
Yeah.
It wasn't asked. And so I didn't know. So for me, the practice really has been of teaching people and helping people to be authentically engaged with another person. You got to have some authenticity going on inside yourself.
One of the things I listen to motivation, fearless motivation, which is you can get it on Spotify, Amazon, whatever. You can download it on your Apple Music. But this guy puts all this music, this really inspirational background music with these speeches that these people give. And Tom Bilyeu, I believe, is the gentleman that did this one in particular, but was talking about both authenticity and integrity. And he mentions in this beautiful speech, you cannot love outside of yourself. You cannot have that which you want outside of yourself, that you want to love, bring to you, or whatever, if you don't love yourself first. If there's not worth in your life. And what he says is, when we chase goals, when we chase dreams, when we chase things we think of that we think have value, the act that we begin on that journey of accomplishing, doing, being, having something new and better than what we currently are right now for ourselves is an act of expressing self-love and self-worth.
I love that.
When we don't follow through in the background, behind the scenes, when no one's looking, if you're failing yourself, you're reminding yourself you're not worthy. You do that every time. Every time you say, oh, I'm just going to hit snooze and I'm not going to get up. Oh, I don't really want to chase that today. Oh, I don't feel like doing X, Y, and Z. Every time you compromise your own integrity by not following through with the promises you've made to yourself, you are chipping away at your own value. So when it comes time to step out in the world, when it comes time to offer yourself to other people, when it comes time to be for others something greater than what they need, if you want to step into it, you're not prepared. You don't have what it takes. You cannot be successful because you don't love yourself, and you've proven you don't have the integrity. And I think that was such a powerful acknowledgement of where we lie as a society, because we're not raised to love ourselves and be authentic. We're raised to help love others and show them who they are by what we give of ourselves, by what we give away of ourselves, I should say. That's a little different.
Yeah.
By what we take away from ourselves to give to others. So many golden gooses out there that are just dying because they're being raped for their eggs. You know what I mean? They're not being appreciated. They're not filling their cup back up, and they're not taking care of themselves and living a life of integrity and authenticity. So, soapbox moment. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I get on these little tangents.
I think it's a good point. And it makes me, the reason why I think, like when you said fear, when you talk about authenticity and integrity, I think the word we're looking for, I'm going to use it in a small formula that I use. It's like, if you really tell the truth, that's the first part of the formula. And about where you want to eat dinner, how you like your coffee. I mean, it doesn't have to be a big truth, but it could be, but it doesn't have to be. If you tell the truth and somebody really sees and knows you, there's fear. You talk about fear of, okay, so what happens next? Here's our formula. Tell the truth, and people really are going to see and know you. And that next minute, they're either going to accept you or reject you.
And that's the thing. Okay, so this brings me back to a couple things. My brain is flashing back to when I was 14 years of age. And I don't know if some of the audience may know this, but that was one of my first aha moments where I confronted myself in front of the mirror after a very bad bully beating. I had bullies was beating me every week. It was just a normal thing. But this particular day was a very difficult one. I was dealing with coming out of the closet. I was dealing with my own sexuality. I was 14 years old in 1984 in Texas. And I could not live with myself lying to people. I could not grasp.
That's it. But at 14.
Pretending to be something for you. And this moment that I had where I could see 10, 20, 30, 40 years of trying to pretend to be something different in order to make you happy and like me, I wanted to throw up and die. I was like, absolutely not. Like, if you can't like me, F off. Like, I don't need this. There's so many other people out in this world who may or may not like who I am, but I will be damned if I'm going to chase this down and die on this hill to get you to approve of me in our teens. Like, no. My brain just saw it all in one flash.
That's one of those special moments where I think you get a download from God, the universe.
Yeah. Like a temporary, and I just saw right through, to the other side. And I was like, woo, nope, we're not doing this. And I feel like that's what a lot of people don't realize. They don't have that choice, or they're not met with that opportunity. I apologize, phone ringing in the bathroom. They don't have that opportunity where they get to see the alternate version of this. Meaning, if you continue down this path, compromising yourself for others, and you continue to pretend to be something else for others, whether it's to get them to like you, go on a date, job interview, whatever it is, it is not a sustainable practice, first of all, because you can't keep up with your own lies. And two, it isn't healthy, because what you're doing is you're lying to the world about who you are. And when you start that process, you're planting poisoned seeds into the bad soil. Nobody else is doing that. And that may be asking you to, and you may be thinking that they want you to.
Well, and I think that's what we were saying earlier. You might not be conscious. I mean, it could be just the milieu you were raised in, the paradigm you were given.
Please everybody, be a people pleaser. And I thought that's my success space. I'm a people pleaser. I can make people happy.
Don't rock the boat. Get along. He's so easy to get along with. Or isn't she easy? It's like, well, if I tell the truth and you really see and know me, and then you either accept or reject me, if you accept me and I haven't told the truth, then the ultimate result is love. And I never feel loved, even though I say, oh, we love each other. Yeah, we love each other. So great. But I never felt love because I know I didn't tell the truth.
Yeah. I didn't give you myself.
He knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gave you a fake version of me. So when you say you love me, every time you say you love me is a dig at my heart, because you don't know the real me, because I didn't let you see it.
That's one of my pet peeves in helping people with dating is looking at their profiles. I'm like, no, this is not.
I saw your little video on there. Checklist, ways to improve your profile photograph, and da 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 da. I was like, ooh, tips and tricks, like. Yeah,
well, because people are they don't put their full body if they feel that they're overweight or they're not the best weight. And then I'm like, okay, so do we want somebody to like the real you? Because sometimes that's the real you, but really trying to do that out there until you've done it in here is just rearranging furniture on the Titanic. It's going down.
Yes. Just rearranging furniture on the Titanic. You got two big ones today, ladies and gentlemen. You got make your mess your message, and stop trying to adjust the furniture on the Titanic, because it's going down anyway.
Going down. Going down. Grab onto a piece of driftwood.
Enjoy the music, baby, because we're all I hope you like a concerto. So that's all I know.
That's it, because we're going under. It's cold.
We are.
Yeah.
That is so funny. That's some brilliant
stuff. The biggest piece of fear that comes up is that we're designed to be attached. I mean, just as a mammal, I don't care who you are, we are designed to be attached, to connect. And we come in with that, and then we end up coping with the best way we know how. We end up with different attachment styles. But all of us want to be loved.
Yes.
We want to be seen. We want to be known. We want to be loved for who we are. And we're not going to be loved by everybody. And that was a revelation to me. I was like, what? So I remember when I first started off as a therapist, and I tried to conform to whatever the client needed, which we were taught in graduate school. And I have left that, by the way, graduate school. Sorry. And so I'm going to be who I really am in this session. And if we're not going to be a fit, there are 1,000 other therapists within 200 yards from here. I'm in Austin. Yep. You can find somebody that would be a better fit. But I was so depleted and exhausted and ultimately resentful that I'm like, can I say fuck with this client? Can I say Jesus with this client? And it was like, just be me. and honoring the client's pace, honoring their personality for sure, but just showing up authentically, my practice doubled. And I quit trying to be what everybody wanted me to be, and it was quite refreshing.
Yes, it is refreshing. We see you, I see you. I think it's very refreshing. I think that's what resonated with me specifically was how you present that authenticity in a way that is, I don't want to say it's unapologetic because you don't have to apologize at all, but it's sort of like this is where I'm coming from and this is the industry that I'm in, but I'm going to bring this version of me to the table because that's what I can do. That's the best that I can do because bringing the best me is my job. Like that's what I have to do is bring the best me. I can't bring the best you and I can't bring the best you and I can't bring the best you. Well, I can bring the best me. And so that is my biggest purpose is to make sure that when we show up for the world and life and everything else, the best me is there to receive whatever gifts and opportunities are coming, right? And I think that's part of sort of what we were saying on this journey too, is we weren't there and present and aware and available, the best version of ourselves, so we weren't receiving those opportunities. We weren't seeing them, we weren't hearing them, we weren't recognizing them.
Because we didn't know.
No, we didn't know. And then when you wake up, when your ears do pop open, right, and you hit that level, you're like, oh my gosh. And then, by the time you're, 50, you realize, well, there's not enough time. There's not a lot of time left to fix and change everything, but I better get it cleaned up now because I don't want to waste the rest of the time I have here playing in that sandbox, playing that game with those people. Like, done.
Bingo.
Not going to do it.
So I started dating and I dated for really 5 years.
Uh-huh.
Count them. Right, count them. 1.
I can see that's 5. Yep.
Yeah, 5 long years. And I took breaks. I had to reboot and reset and everything and really kept adding each experience to me, something for me to learn from. But the fear that kept creeping up was like, again, the fear that I think initiated my reason for marrying at 31 first. I thought I was running out of time. So I just did it. I got desperate. I was like, I want to have children. I want to have a family. What's going to happen? I've got to do this. I've got to do this now. And really thought that I was happy. It was really not a conscious part that I didn't. And so really the dating for 5 years, fear was a constant companion of you can't make the person come in. It was like, I can. I was like, you can't. And so I called it like the Amazon shopping ring of like, I want this in a partner. I want this in a partner. I want this in a partner. And then I thank Johnny Cash for the ring of fire that just burns all that away over time. And I got finally to the core of peace. And fear is still there. I mean, fear still comes because I'm alive and breathing. But in that space, I really imagined that I woke up one morning and that I had left magically a pad by my bed. And in the morning, an angel had come down and she or he had written in it, "You will never couple again." And I went, okay, so how would I be living my life if my greatest fear came true? And I was like, well, it wouldn't be that much different. I mean, I'd quit dating. I mean, I wouldn't worry about it. I'd just be doing the things I was doing. I'd be investing in the volunteer opportunities I could. I'd be playing pickleball. I'd be hanging out with my friends. I'd be traveling. I would be going to visit the ranch. I would be doing the things that life is. And then I had a thought, okay, so if I woke up the next morning and the angel had written a note that said, you will be coupled in the next 9 months. You'll find your forever person. How would you be living? And what I tell people, Michael, is it shouldn't be any different. None. And when I really faced the fear, which I call the fruit roll-up of fear, you unpack a fruit roll-up, you have to keep pulling it all the way out. It's like, what is the fear? And that was really my fear. I would never couple. I would never have my +1. I can't hear you.
Oh, I muted myself when I blew my nose. I apologize.
There you go.
I think that's one of my biggest fears is because I haven't dated in 15 years. I mean, I haven't been with anybody. And, there's a whole lot, I'm sure there's a whole lot of reasons and things that go into that, that we could dive down into. But it's just weird how my life has just turned into this sort of lone wolf scenario. And when I saw you on the program, and I saw what you did and everything, I had two reactions. One was, oh my God, I love what she does. Oh my God, I hope she doesn't know that I'm single and I don't know if I'll ever find anybody. Like, I can't be a project right now because I don't want to be the focus. So like, it was one of those things where I was like, if we go down that road, I'm going to be terrified because I don't know how. I haven't been in a relationship. I mean, been in a relationship, friendships and things like that, but I haven't been in a romantic and a coupled relationship in 20 years. And I don't know if I know how. I keep thinking, well, it's like what my stepfather always says to me, you can't practice being in a relationship without being in a relationship. Like, you've got to try and you have to practice.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what do? Do you just get in relationships just to practice being in relationships? What do you tell the other person? I'm not really in it for the long term. I'm just practicing with you because I have no idea if this is going to work out. So just want you to know up front. Like, how do you have that done? And this is like 100% out there.
Caveat, please.
Right. So I thought, it's always been in the back of my brain. So for me, this show is my outreach. For me, this is sort of like, getting to connect with humans and people and really make an impact. But if I could do all of that, do what I do, right? I want to change who I am and what I'm doing, and have someone on this journey with me as my witness for what I'm doing, I think that would be amazing too. I think that'd be really cool. I think that everybody kind of is seeking to a degree, it's that witness for their lives.
That's a great way to say it. That person that they can choose to continue to use as a place to heal and grow and transform and enrich.
Well, speaking of, transforming, the Lip Sync dating program, which everybody can find on Austin Empowered. Links will be below.
LipSyncDating.com too.
Yeah.
You can find its own site too. Mm-hmm.
Lip Sync. What does that mean, lip sync? What is the term?
It was weird. I've been asked that before. And what I have found is I had it called deliberate dating. And then when I went to go get it trademarked, the USTPO often, they said, you have to do something more original. So we tossed around a couple of things. And I'm the child of I graduated high school in 1985. I'm 56. So it was like Milli Vanilli. Lip syncing was all fake. Do you remember Milli Vanilli? It was like lip syncing.
No, it's true.
Yes. But it's not a word that I love because like Austin, my last name, and then Austin, the city, I like kind of like the play on words, a double entendre of lip sync. If you can really sync yourself up with who you authentically are and what you want for your life.
And what you're saying.
With your lips and who and how it expresses the integrity that you mentioned earlier, if that can really come through, if you can sync that up, you can resonate, get on that frequency, half the battle is done because then you start to attract people at that same resonance, at that same frequency. And so then, and everybody loves to sync their lips when they consider romance, they get to kiss. And so it's got three meanings in essence. And so I went with it. And then the tuned in, turned on, transformative dating is that a lot of times people look at dating as the, this is the car that's going to take us to the new location. And the location is the best part of our trip. And really, this program is teaching that dating in itself is part of the transformation and healing process. And it can be fun. And it can be enriching. From somebody who did it for 5 years that really, really did not think it was fun at the beginning, it can be fun. And so really looking at it from a new perspective, it changes everything. Like you were talking earlier.
Perspective is, God, there's so many truths. There's so many things that I learn and have been learning along this journey by asking the questions. I'm so blessed and lucky that I get to be the person who gets to sit in this seat and talk about these subject matters. When it happened to me and I started looking and examining it, I didn't have all the answers. I still don't. But what I wanted to know was the difference. That's the key. I wanted to know from others, what is your journey with fear? What is your journey with vulnerability? What is your journey with these things? How is it impacting your lives? And what difference is it making in the way that we live and choose to live? And how, if we begin a dialogue with ourselves about this, can we change the world and change the way we see ourselves in it? And by doing so, shifting that perspective, we shift our frequency, just like you said. And by shifting our frequency, we become more in line and alignment and in tune with harmony, the parts of the world that bring happiness and joy and abundance, right?
Yep.
I think that frequency is an important thing. I don't know that a lot of people talk about it. I think it's sort of it could be mythical, it can be mystical, it can be maybe spiritual, but not necessarily religious on that line. I don't know if you're familiar with the Celestine Prophecy.
I love that book.
Oh, talk about frequency.
Yes.
Finding your way to aligning yourself with the frequency of the world and the planet. Because as because a lot of people know this statement and this saying, we are all humans being, not humans doing. We are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yep.
And that, if you can remember this, maybe some of you are out there right now in your cars driving to work, or you're coming home from work or whatever, and you've had a frustrating and difficult and challenging day. Remember, you're a spiritual being having a human experience. You're fitting in to a physical shape and form. Your resonance, your frequency is being reduced and shrunk down, slowed down enough to inhabit the physical form. I know it's maybe wild and out there, but you have to slow down that vibration long enough to inhabit a physical form for this temporary years, 50, 60, 70, 80 years, before you get released and go back out into the frequency of the world, of the universe. And in doing so, while you're down here, it's going to be hard. There's going to be times when you don't feel like you're resonating with things around you. You don't feel in balance or in harmony. And by the way, that can be in part because your perspective is off.
Yep.
So, if we can help with this show and other shows that talk about this stuff, can help you clear the cobwebs, get that filter out of the way, and embrace an opportunity where learning and seeing something from a different perspective and point of view might just give you that space you need to love yourself a little bit more, have a little bit more compassion for yourself, and maybe resonate with somebody else and get some lip syncing on,
That's it. Well, when you said that, that's it, because that was the part that tuned in. You have to tune into yourself.
Yes.
First, turned on. Doesn't mean sexually turned on. It can mean, it's another double entendre there, but turned on, like animated with your truth.
Yeah.
Like alive with your purpose, alive
and awakened.
Yes. And really what your preferences are, what your interests are, what your values are, what your desires are, all of that, to have that turned on in you. And then it's transformative.
Well, and then I think, the turned on, sorry to interrupt, the turned on part too, by the way, can also relate to the things you've turned off in your life because you thought that you didn't need them. You thought someone wouldn't like them. We've shut down pieces of ourselves. That. It's time to turn those pieces back on, baby. It's time to go in there and turn those lights back on, open those curtains and let that light shine in to the parts of you that you might have been hiding and be transformative, because you can't do it without it.
Well, when you think about your 14-year-old experience where you had, bullying, daily basis, if not, weekly, daily.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have any conversation about what was going on back then. And for you to stand up at 14
and no recourse.
And no support. So that's why at Lip Sync, we have the complimentary call live every Monday night so that people can come in and have a shared experience of like, oh my God, I've never revealed who I really am on a profile. I know how to be flirty and cool, but I don't know how to say anything real. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And what do you do when you finally get somebody, like you catch a fish and they're talking, and so there's a place to really be real and be accepted and therefore loved, where you get to practice that. Because you go out on a date and you're by yourself with another human being, and then you like, what if they don't like me? And if there's not a good support system in your life or a good group of friends or family, it's hard to go out and do that.
Sure.
And come back home and be by yourself. You talk about fear. It's like, well, there really is something wrong with me.
Well,
Shame,
especially
yep.
if we're talking about two things. One, I love that you brought that up, because my next question to you was creating your ideal partner, which you mentioned on both the website and stuff, which is what you help people do. It can create a lot of fear in people. But I also think it just occurred to me that you were talking about going out on date and sort of, what if they don't like me? What if they whatever? It occurred to me that is the one social situation we put ourselves in by definition, where the goal coming out of it is to ensure that someone likes me.
Yes.
Instead of the goal being, I better show up with my most authentic self and bring the best me to the table, our focus is on a different outcome, and that is to get them to like me, to ensure that they're going to like me. So what we begin to do is we begin to make assumptions about areas that we might need to edit out and truncate or whatever, out of fear of rejection, out of fear of not being liked, out of fear of things not going right? Not the practice of dating, which is just go and be you. And if it don't go well, that's fine. Date another and practice again until you get comfortable in expressing yourself and you're not so nervous, right?
Right.
There's no practice dating space, school scenario. You throw you out in the world and your parents are like, go on a date. Like, who teaches you this stuff? You didn't watch your parents date. God knows you didn't want to. You certainly don't want to know anything about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have this weird, ick and gross, our parents, and some of our parents were great and they were amazing lovers and they had incredible communication. And we as kids don't see that. So it's not taught in high school. It certainly isn't taught in schools today. God knows.
It's not taught in movies and TV and books.
No, that's romanticizing it. Yeah.
And fairy tales. There's no place really to go get it.
Very rare.
So I really felt that it was a need, that we need to evolve how we date.
Mm-hmm.
And so dating evolution instead of revolution, and evolution is really what I'm about. And think about this. Look at how much we know about food, diet, and eating now than we did 30 years ago.
And we're still the fattest, unhealthiest, and most drugged up nation in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
But we didn't know about GMO. We didn't know about carbs. We didn't know about sugar addictions.
You say we didn't, but the people selling it to us certainly did.
Yes. But so that's what I'm saying. Hollywood
mm-hmm.
and fairy tales are selling us that version of dating.
Mm-hmm. They're selling us an imaginary version of ourselves in a world that doesn't exist at a time that isn't real. It's all
and you see these kids and people that brand themselves on Instagram and they put their cap on and they take their picture and they go sporty self. And I'm like, you've never played a sport in your life. You just branded yourself as a way for people to have an image of you. So therefore, they didn't tell the truth. They can't be seen and known. They will be accepted, but they'll never feel loved because they didn't tell the truth. And so it's really creating a space as you do the ideal partner blueprint of what truly people always like, I don't think I can do an ideal partner blueprint. It seems too scary. And they're scary is it because
wait, why would you be scared to write down your preferences for the best person? Hello, I don't want to manifest perfect. I don't want to mess that up. I might put something wrong. Like, hello.
There is that too, and I do see that. But there's another level of it. It was like, well, I'm not perfect. I need to allow the other person to be imperfect too.
Because the act of writing down what I would expect and want from my partner suggests that if I'm fallible, I don't have the right to ask this.
Thank you. That was well said. That's tweetable. That's it right there. That's
hashtag, get that, ladies. Put that caption up. That's going out to social media.
That is really it. A lot of people don't believe that if they do that they deserve to do that. So they feel that they would be too, arrogant to ask for their ideal partner. I said, no. If you can't start with your ideal partner, there is no perfect person. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. That's not even on the menu. But if you can't really get clear about it, and people really, truly, Michael, they just get stymied at that point. So I created a tool for people to use so that they can figure out a way to do it differently. And the tool is, nobody has a problem with this. And I go into detail in the program, but I want you to make a list of all the things you never want to think, feel, or experience in a relationship again.
Oh, God.
And people are like, how much paper and time do I have?
You have, right? Because we've all been through it. I was going to ask this next question, which actually was teasing into it, was what's the most common fear you see around dating in your thing? And I wonder if that's it, that the very act of bringing my authentic self to this situation, which feels impossible to do because I've never actually known who that is and I don't know how to do it, coupled with the idea that I now need to write down and ask from you, the universe, or whatever, what it is I want in a perfect partner when I can't even tell you who I am. I can't even be honest with myself, let alone bring it to you. And now I'm going to tell you what I want from you is an act of lies. You can't tell anyone what you want because you don't even know yourself to make that demand, to make that ask.
That's it. That's all I'm saying is like
Yeah.
to really suss that out. And a lot of us know how we don't like to be treated.
Sure.
But again, if we were taught to be, people pleasers, diminish ourselves, deny our needs, and really don't rock the boat.
Well,
just no conflict,
any of us can sit there and write down, yeah, I don't like to be kicked by my owner. Stepped on is fine because, that doesn't hurt as bad. But that's all we know. When all you know is being kicked and bullied, when all you know is the bad parts, and that's what you use to set your baseline for what your expectations are, you might actually allow someone to walk on you. You might allow somebody to wipe their feet on you and not respect you. You might allow these things because you don't realize, A, that you have the right to ask for something better. B, you don't love yourself enough to know that's your job. That's your responsibility to love yourself. That's your role here on this planet. When God sent you down here is to be the best version of you can possibly be. And that includes loving yourself.
Yes. And that, I think what we miss along the way is we desire so much to belong and to be attached, connected, that the tribal primitive part of our brain says, well, amend yourself so that they won't kick you out. I mean, it's very primitive.
Well, that's fitting in, not belonging. Fitting in is when you edit the pieces of yourself to get into something. Belonging is when you have to do nothing and they love you anyway.
Thank you. Another tweetable. That's it. Right. Mark those. That's the moment. Those are the moments, because that's the difference. And so when you don't know that, the waterline has not been dropped on your consciousness and you're just going along the best way you know how. Everybody else that's 31 is getting married. I guess I need to do something. Oh, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Fear. There's the fear.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
What do I need to do to mend myself? Like you said, edit myself so that somebody else would be okay with me.
Yeah.
And then we never really feel loved. We just settle. And then nobody wants to be the settler and no one wants to be settled for.
No one wants to find out you settled. Oh, really? You settled for me?
And I didn't know I did that in my first marriage. I really was humbled. I did not know I did it. I did not know. I was afraid as I was of not being with my peers or what my family expected of me at 31. It's like, I'm in a small town. I can't make, I was in Denton getting my graduate degree.
Denton, yes. UNT, Eagles.
Oh, I was TW. But I couldn't wait. Yeah, I couldn't make people come in. I mean, we didn't have online dating. We didn't have apps. I was like, well, I'm not going to find them at Target. Or at, on campus, it was a women's university. What? So I was like, what am I going to do? And so it was a panicky thing. That fear makes us make decisions that are not choices. They are reactive.
Yes. This is where I was when I was exploring how it influences our lives. It is forcing us into making decisions and choices we wouldn't normally make because we're making them out of fear. We're making them from a place of fear. That's one thing I've always learned about myself. If I make a choice and a decision based from a place of fear, it's always wrong. It's always bad. It never works. And if you know that about yourself, really, truly know that about yourself, when you feel that you're coming from a place of fear and panic, which I just had, I'm sorry, I just had a fear, I'm in the studio, which is out at the ranch, and we're on the mountains, and we're in the mountains, and I have this decorative shelf with baskets and things and everything. Something crawled down, a spider, massive, over there.
Like a tarantula size?
It's big. That's a big boy.
Hey, keep your eyes on him.
I'm gonna keep my eyes on him because I could see him over there, and I just feel like not that I'm terrified of spiders, but they creep me out. Anyway, back to the show.
It's primitive. It's a primitive response.
Exactly. It is. It's my what is it? Not my amyloid. My, what is it? Is it amyloid, Adderall? My amygdala. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a different A word. Anyway. So yeah, these things, I think if you know that you're coming from a place of fear and you're making a decision, it's always going to be wrong. So remember that about yourself if that's anything that you're ever coming. Just speaking of, let's move forward a little bit. Like, now that you've got the business, you've developed this pathway, you've got lip sync, you've got clients and people that you work with, you've learned some things. What are some of the 3 biggest challenges you think you face currently knowing what you know, learning what you've learned, and now moving forward.
As an entrepreneur or in lip sync or with
any one of them. Something that stands out for you right now, I think, as an entrepreneur, I think that includes your business and encompasses that whole what you built as a business. So it can include the lip sync part of it. Have you learned anything major from that we should know? That will give us a little insight to like what are we doing wrong? What do we need to fix?
in the dating world?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, for me, I think it's really about exactly what you just said earlier. It was ideal partner blueprint. You've got to, if you come up to the poker table and you only have 10 chips and I'm going to play with you and you've got 200, who's going to have more freedom in betting? Who's going to take more risks? Who's going to be more vulnerable? Mm-hmm. So the person that has the more poker chips are going to do that. And I'm going to be more in scarcity. And so what I've learned really is that shifting my mentality always to a choice of abundance. And so when scarcity is really there, and I call it scare city, and it is a location that I really feel I go to. And I just like start counting my 10 chips and I don't know what I can do. And I do it in my practice. I do it in my lip sync. I'm like, how much time do I have? There's not enough time in the day, whatever. It's a scarcity mentality. And so leaving scarcity is a thing that it's a practice I continue to practice. And heading toward what I call the dance, abundance, the dance of abundance. And going to that place and recognizing, okay, what if there is enough time? What if you do have enough energy? What if there is enough CRM, somebody out there that knows how to do my CRM for me? What if there is? What if that's out there? So really shifting from scarcity to abundance is a constant thing because fear comes up.
Well,
there's not enough.
Brene Brown was talking about this too, and she mentioned that we live in a society right now in a culture of scarcity. That the messaging that we get, the bombardment of information and stimuli, the politics that we live in, the climate, not just physical climate and weather climate, but the climate of our nations, our relationships with each other, the divergent behavior that has been presented to us over the last several years is a culture of and a messaging of scarcity and fear that we sort of are stewing in, we're simmering in it daily. If you don't disconnect and separate yourself from that deluge of information long enough to recenter and rebalance, and that's, I think, what a lot of people are trying to do, seek it in, whether it's yoga, meditation, whatever they got to do to like get that balance back. Remember, every time you tune in and turn on something, you're inviting in that energy from a TV or radio or whatever it is. And this is something interesting people may not know. Celestine, I think, talked about this. When we talk about the frequency and stuff, they talk about frequency of plants and frequency of things in nature compared to the frequency of things that humans have developed and designed. If you put them on a scope, those little frequency scopes, you can see how angled and sharp, and a lot of this frequency that we get from things is negative. It's not in balance and in harmony with our physical selves. And the frequency that our physical bodies give off is actually more in tune with nature and a tree than it is with a television and a TV show.
Yes. So it is.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, I think paying attention to that is huge, and noticing, what frequency are you on, and what are you in scarcity? There's a frequency. Are you in abundance? There's a frequency. And again, if you drop the water level, you have a choice.
I don't know that we realize humans have an electrical impulse. We have electrical impulses through our entire body that operate and run our heart and our brain and everything else. Our brain is firing all the time with electrical impulses. Those electrical impulses are giving off a frequency wave. They're giving off a vibration, right? And if you're doing things in your life that go against your own vibration, if you're taking on things in your life that go against your vibration, you could be sick, you could get a migraine, you could be unhealthy, you could get overweight, you might not getting the nutrition that you need, you might be involved in bad relationships, making poor choices, all of those different things. Now, think about that. You're already there, you're doing that, right? you're now changing and shifting your vibration to adapt and adopt these things that aren't good for you. But what does that do to the world outside? It draws to you other things that are of that like and similar vibration, which means you are now drawing scarcity. You're now drawing fear. You're now bringing more of it to you because that's what your vibration's giving off, right?
Yep. That's what you attract.
Yeah.
Yeah. It will.
Exactly. So I don't mean to get too mystical and sort of, weird about it, but I think it's a real thing that I don't think we think about when we're in that place of scarcity. We are now emitting
a frequency. You are emitting a frequency.
Yep.
There's
exactly.
No way. So you asked one of my challenges that I would say, I think one of my biggest challenges right now is and this is a belief system that I could check in myself. So, but there seems to be, and I'm doing it right now. We are creating a podcast. So, but the amount of energy required to continually put a voice out there, trying to market or share, trying to serve, trying to get my message out there can absolutely exhaust me. Whether it's posting, whether it's, responding, liking, following, creating content and then putting the content out there and then responding to the content. It's like, to me, that continues to be a big challenge, and it flies in the face of the authentic part because it feels like, look at me, hey, look at me,
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't. And I know that there's a lot of people doing really good things out there that aren't having that kind of a narcissistic or self-centered or look at me only purpose. But there's so many that are, that putting my voice out there, competing with that has been a challenge for me. It feels hard.
It feels disingenuous.
That's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
No. And I'm with you. I this part I love, getting on the call, doing the interviews. Like, this is my zone. I am happiest and feel very balanced and very relaxed and very cool and very whatever, like in this space doing this. Then we get off of this and it's now post-production time, and I got to take these and edit it, clip and dot, and do the social media posts and all those different businessy things.
Yep.
Around the dream. Like, the dream part is fun, but then you got to do all the other stuff, around it. And while I'm good at it and I understand it and I've been doing it for many years, and I have that experience, it still is, it feels a little slightly disingenuous. You're right. You do feel like, I feel like I should be paying someone to do that part so that I'm free to actually enjoy doing
this part where you feel most resonance, where you feel most alive.
Yeah.
But I think as an entrepreneur, and you well know, I mean, that's part of the braiding together of all the parts. And so we'll bring in perspective again. It's just how I continue to look at it. I have to decide to look at it as a gift and a privilege that I get to do it. But that is a kind of a wah-wah.
Then, we, as entrepreneurs, we're Jack and Jills of all trades. You know what I mean? We bring to the table a number of skill sets and experiences that we culminate our mess into a message. And then we try to deliver it to the world. In order to do so as an entrepreneur, you have to be an innovator. You have to be a creator. You have to operate from a place. A certain amount of vulnerability is required in order to put yourself out there, your ideas, your thoughts, your creativity, your services, your goods. You're putting it out there at risk that it will be rejected. In fact, this is one of the biggest to step out into the world with what you think you know and what you think you want to give people, and then risk them saying, I don't want it. That's
rejection. There's that
100%. Absolutely. And I think entrepreneurs deal with this on a daily basis with the understanding and the knowledge that you're going to be turned down, you will be rejected. But I think what we understand about that's different than other people, we already know this and we're comfortable with it. We know we're going to fall. We know we're going to fail. We know we're going to get bruised and we're going to get hurt. We know this is not easy. But there's a teeny tiny little part of us. It's still that little boy and that little girl on the playground, dreaming about being a superhero, dreaming about being a cop, dreaming about being in the space program, because we're dreamers. We're huge. We cannot stop the dream. We can't stop the creativity. It's just part of who we are. And when you try to balance those two things, where we've got the chaos and the drama on this side, that's like, it's difficult, it's challenging, you could fail, people will reject you, all the big what if scenarios and the fears that might come in with the dreamer and the creator who want to do more in this world. We live in this tension space in the middle. Like we live in this little zone of tension, of the tug of war between you might not, you might, what goes wrong, but what if it doesn't? Like, this is where we are. And having resources and people like you, to help us, especially navigate the tension area between romance and our lips, as we try to get them in sync with our hearts. I think that could be very challenging, but I'm very glad that we have you as a resource, that people can have you as a resource. I think that's really incredible, the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. So speaking of those things, 3 things, maybe 2 things that you would love the audience to take away and remember, if you have a little piece of advice that they could get this afternoon, it's free right now, ladies and gentlemen. If you hire her, it's not going to be that way, but you can get this little piece of advice right now because you tuned in. So do you have something?
I think if I could just imbue anybody listening that's looking at dating, is that if you look at dating as a process to help you heal and transform your thoughts, your consciousness, your reactions to things, your mental story about scarcity or abundance, if you use it as a process to transform yourself, enrich yourself, and heal yourself, it's a win. You're out there connecting people. You're not missing anything. And like you said, we have few years here.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's go ahead and use our time here to really grow, develop, heal, transform, and then have some fun while we're doing it. It's like there's this, the thing I wish somebody had told me is my dad never, he tried to tell me how to date, but again, he told me, make sure the guy has fun. So, so I would say whether it's a gay relationship or a straight relationship, whatever, pay attention to how you feel in this other person's presence. And you've mentioned that before. It's like we were taught to go to the interview and put your best foot forward, which implies there's a club foot we're dragging behind us.
Mm-hmm.
And so don't look at that one though.
Which implies no, but nobody wants to see the other foot.
Yes, it's deformed, it's gross,
Mm-hmm.
it's got necrotic flesh and might stink. And so what we want to do is we want to bring all of ourselves and really be okay with the skunk part of ourselves and the beautiful flower part of ourselves. If you can embrace those together and hold that space, like set your feet, if you're into sports, really set your feet and just hold both of those as you go forward. I think that you're going to be vibrating at a frequency that's going to attract more people doing the very same thing.
I love that because when you realize that by stepping fully into that space where you're now acting in your best interest, you're not self-centered, you're self-interested, and you're presenting an authentic version of yourself, vulnerable, available, but also, at risk. Like, I don't know enough about myself to know whether or not I'm going to be good at this, and I need to practice with you, and I'm inviting you to practice with me. You are then changing the frequency of the situation and thereby attracting to you now individuals that will and hopefully will resonate with that version of you.
Yes. One of the modules, the last one, and they don't have to be taken in order, but they are designed to go in order. But it talks about recognize and rewrite the patterns that no longer serve you.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you go out on a date or you're getting ready for a date or you're looking at putting a profile up, or what is your story? Yes. What is the pattern? What's the narrative? What are you saying?
What are you saying to yourself? I have talked about this. It's in my speech. It's in my work. It's in my blogs. What story are you telling yourself? Because that's one thing humans do. Other than dream and other than, want to be partnered and want to have connection in this world, we tell ourselves stories. We love stories. And if you are telling yourself a narrative that is not in alignment with who you are, it's pretty hard to live a good life. I would think it's going to be pretty difficult and challenging.
It is. And then something that we said earlier that I'm going to come back to is that we have these thoughts, they're automatic. Fear is automatic, which we talked about. It shows up, it's there. But then if you have that sacred pause, that space right after it to say, up until now, I was a bad dater, or up until now, I got really nervous and sweated a lot. Up until now, I picked people that were addicts, or I picked people that were assholes. Up until now, I didn't speak up and reveal who I was. Up until now. And those 3 words, I think, are neurolinguistically powerful. Like the train's going this way with that narrative. And then up until now, it just changes course immediately. And it opens up possibility, and it opens up hope, and it opens up
neuroplasticity. It means your brain can now see opportunities, or at least allow for the suggestion of a different path, of new opportunities and new ways to move forward. Because you're giving yourself permission in the statement of up until now. A, I've learned all that stuff. I got it behind me. It's at my back. I can use it in any of those tools. And B, by saying up until now, you're placing a marker between then and what comes next. Yes. And you're suggesting that in the what comes next area, after this, new. After this, better. After this, improved. Yes. Maybe 10%.
I love it.
Maybe, maybe Miller Lite, not Miller Regular.
Yes. And one thing that I think that I would love for everybody to know is we were raised in the school system, most of us, in the public school systems, or really in America, where we're trying to win. It's who has the answer, and you raise your hand first. It's me. I have it. And so we weren't really taught the growth mentality. We were taught the fixed mentality. You either have the answer and you're good and you get the A or the gold star, or you're less than. And so going into dating as a learner, with the growth mentality, with, like we were saying earlier, you don't have to be finding your next and last partner ever.
That's a lot of pressure.
It's so much pressure. So going into it with a growth mentality, with I'm going to learn something here.
I'm going to learn something about myself, or learn something about somebody else today. Yeah, exactly.
So that's really what I would leave people with too. And that's what I really want. It takes a lot of the pressure off. It creates a space for you to be more authentic, because you're coming at it from a place of, I'm learning something about myself and about you in this activity or this restaurant or this space that we're going to be in. You're like, oh, I can do that. Yeah. I don't have to be Bono. The first time Bono hit the stage, he was not Bono. It was like, there's, like you were saying, is we don't see all those steps ahead of time.
Yeah.
But so it's just giving yourself permission to be willing to be a learner.
Yes. And because, when you meet me now. You meet the version of me that's here. Like you meet what everything that came before you don't get to see, but you get to meet this version of me. And, I feel compelled in those situations to share so much, because I'm like, oh, but this is how I got here. And it's like, my life was crazy. And I've done all these things and But it's like, you know what? They'll never know that person. I won't know that person anymore. I've changed from those individuals. I've shifted and moved on, and I've become somebody different. That doesn't have any bearing. I mean, there's a slight, I suppose, influence to a degree, but it really doesn't have any bearing on who I am today. And what I share with you now can be 100% different and authentic than it was before, because it's now my choice. And if I recognize that choice is available to me, I guess the other side of it is you have to realize that by making that choice, actively choosing to bring that authentic version of yourself, you're allowing for the other person to bring theirs too. So there's some compassion there. There's some understanding there. There's,
Yeah. And allowing there to be a softness about it, a willingness, a beginning, a becoming as you go into it, versus
a becoming.
What we were taught is, are you hot? Are we attracted to each other?
Yeah.
I guess we're a good date. Let's move on. It's like we lose so much of the flavor of what the relationship is designed to help us know about ourselves.
When we're younger, we're driven by the hormones. I mean, my gosh, I just think about, I was a randy little bastard. You know what I mean? As long as you met the physical preferences that my brain was telling me, probably wasn't my brain telling me, but, like I was like, yeah, that dude, and so like, and for me now, it's sort of like, wow, I don't think I dated anyone because I liked them.
There you go. And that's the transaction that was happening versus the transformation. It was just transactional. You'll make me not feel lonely. You'll make me feel Like, well, you're hot, so I guess I must be hot. That makes me feel good. It's like it's no transformational content whatsoever. It's like going through and eating cotton candy and going, I'm full. I'm like, yeah, but there was no nutritional value in that cotton candy. But you're full, but it's just not good for you, and your dentist is going to hate it. So when you focus on this, it's really about what you're saying. What's the nutrition, and what do you get out of it? How do you feel in this person's presence? Not just, do they like me?
Exactly. And so moving, we're heading into the fall. It's coming out September. 2023 is slowly rolling out. This year's slowly coming to an end. Any specific milestones or goals that you have in mind for the rest of 2023, or maybe going into 2024 we should know about?
In 2024, that's a great question. I'm looking at each one of the modules has a workbook to go along with it, because the feedback from people is there's just so much in our live conversations. We need to have something to write on. And as I'm teaching, we need a place to take notes. And the feedback has been, could you put that into a book? And I'm like, oh, it'd be fun to be an interactive dating workbook, because a lot of concepts are here, which I hear with people in practice, but how do they translate? How do you get them into your life? How do we do dating differently? Not just think about it.
Yeah.
It's like actually getting in the pool and swimming versus reading about swimming. It's like, what would it look like?
Do you remember The Artist's Way?
Yes. Oh, I love that book.
I loved that journey, and it just occurred to me. I just had this vision of, you with the new, lip sync book or whatever, that people were showing up at a cafe, each of them with their little dating notebook, and their job was to hand their dating notebook to the other person, and the other person was to write an entry in it, unknown, not talking or anything, just an entry in the dating book, and then hand it back and not say anything about it, not read it or do anything until the end of the date. And then they get to see, what did you write, at the beginning.
That's a cool idea. That was welcome. A download. I think you just got one. I think you just got another one. They were all witnessing a download.
That's a good one.
Awesome. Yeah, but
kind of cool. I don't know.
Yeah, one of my dreams would be to have the lip sync badge on, the top dating apps. That if you were to go look at an app and there would be
lip sync approved.
Yes, then that would be like, okay, this person's serious. They've done some work. They speak the same language.
So on the profile, you could see it on their profile, so they've done the lip sync trial or whatever. Then they know you've done some work and some homework. The same thing in AA and Al-Anon and the 12-step program. A lot of those people who go through the program and stuff utilize the steps in order to help them navigate relationships. Which I've, my parents, my mom and my stepfather were in the program for many years, and they always talked program talk when we were talking about their relationships. I used to think, God, that's so unromantic. But at least they knew each other. Do you know what I'm saying? They had the ability to speak and talk openly with one another in a language that actually, communicated their feelings. So I think that's something that, like you said, most people haven't learned to do, and they need to learn to do. Right. So a program like that would be really cool. I think that'd be amazing,
And another thing that fits that too is that my trainers from the Couples Institute, Ellen Bader and Pete Pearson, they do a training for counselors that work with couples. And I said, oh my gosh, I did not know this, but I developed lip sync before I got in the program. I was like, I developed a dating program using the developmental model without even knowing the developmental model. Oh. So now I'm looking to teach on there with them and really show other therapists how to teach other people how to use a developmental model. Because like you said, you're like, oh, how unromantic. But it's really, there's the beginning when you get that gooey good limerence, the chemical cocktail in your head of being a couple. And then people don't like the second level, which is differentiation, which is where you really have to be authentic. You should be doing that all along. And really being authentic and telling who you really are takes skills of dealing with conflict.
Well, because we spend a 95% of our energy and our time at the beginning is to try to find ways we match. How do we get along? What things do we like that are in common? Blah, 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 blah. We never go through the part that goes, whoa, how are we different? And we don't get to that part until after we usually have gone pretty far down the road. And now we got to share the differences. Now we got to explore the spaces that don't make sense. Now we got to go, I sleep on the left side of the bed. No, I do. I sleep on the left side of the bed. Like, how are we ever going to make this work? Well, we're going to have 2 beds. Like, it's not going to make any sense.
Toilet paper hangs over or under?
Over. Over. So yeah, there's, I think we don't bring the differences. What makes us different and what's unusual and unique. And what I've discovered is that people that have long lasting, really good relationships are the ones that didn't have the romance up front, but had the understanding and the camaraderie and respect up front. And then that romance beautifully, like, just blossomed and became this nice warmth blanket that was covering everything later on. I thought that's pretty cool. I was not envious, but just sort of like, wow, that'd be amazing to have that sort of long understanding of each other, this sort of intimate knowledge that they know you so well, and and are respectful of and caring about it, which I feel like that's what we're all seeking. Is that what we can find if we come and get help from lip syncing from you? We can learn to be our better selves and to find love, hopefully one day.
Yes. Well, and again, like I said, with all transparency, when you're emitting on a frequency of you're living your badass, juicy life as it is, about your business, your purpose, but wanting, I could never turn off the wanting to be connected, to wanting to couple. I didn't want to turn it off. It was the true, authentic experience that I wanted to have. And then 5 years in, I found Joel. And then he was like, whoa, dating a therapist is different. I was like, yeah, we're going to have some serious conversations from the start.
Is there a journal and a pen in every part of the house? This is very strange.
See, when you said bring the book and share and write in, it was pretty much that.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And so really being able to, allow myself to tell people it's a process. I don't have it down perfectly. I can't make somebody come in. But if you're gonna date, let's date consciously.
Yes, thank you. If you're gonna live consciously. If you're gonna date consciously. Like, hello,
be intentional.
Have some intention. Thank you. We must have intention. Oh, God, this is such good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got some good nuggets and gems on this show today. Some really incredible things. God, I hate to have to wind this up. Before I let you go, one of the things that we do, we ask our guests, obviously, to get vulnerable and share some of their experiences. We also invite and let our audience know that vulnerability is a crucial and missing element to, I believe, balance and success and happiness in our society today. Thank you for being vulnerable on the show and sharing your journey with us. How do you think vulnerability plays a role on your fearless road, but also with romance?
Yeah, that's a great question. And sometimes people take that understanding and they really resonate with vulnerability, and then they overshare.
Yes.
And so there's a balanced place between really being able to know being vulnerable is really being present, emotionally engaged, accessible.
Yes, not vomiting your entire life secrets in the first day.
And not talking about all of your abuse from the beginning or everything that went wrong in your last marriage or relationship. It's like make sure that other person, and I think Brene Brown says this, make sure the person is worthy of your story.
Oh, yes, she does this. She says, make sure you're with someone who's worthy of your story.
Make them earn the right to know the vulnerability.
Yeah.
So being vulnerable, I would say, I always wanted to say, I noticed every time I was like, I want to say I was divorced once, because if you say you're divorced twice, people immediately judge you quickly. They make a big snap judgment about you. And so I had to really practice holding on to my little girl and going, I've had 2 divorces. And if you want to know more about them, I'm happy to share it. Mm-hmm. But I was going to be authentic from the beginning. But most people are pretty respectful and don't ask a ton of questions originally. But I think vulnerability is authenticity. It's another word for it. It's like, here is my authentic self. Sometimes I'm scared. Sometimes I'm nervous. Sometimes I'm under-resourced and petty and small.
I think, and to me, maybe I can phrase this. It was occurring to me that vulnerability is not when I share. Vulnerability is when I'm in the presence of someone where I'm allowed to be myself.
Yeah.
That I don't have to. I don't have to say anything, but I'm I know I'm in a safe place no matter who I'm with. And that to me is like real vulnerability. You don't have to say everything and share everything. I mean, in fact, as I get older, like I think about dating people right now, and I'm 53 and I'm thinking, I don't want to know your whole past. Like, I don't think I'd be interested in all those stories. And you know what? We got a few years to talk about this. So why don't we tease this out? God knows you're going to be telling that story at the dinner table when the cousins and the guests are over here. So like, if I have to hear this 53 times, let's just make that take some time. Okay. But like, and everything that you did before, years ago may or may not be relevant to who and what you are today.
Yeah.
The person you're presenting to me right now, the person you're offering up to me right now is more interesting and I think appealing than going back to when you were 12 and I don't know who that person was and I didn't get to see them. It doesn't make you any more or less romantic to me. It just makes me feel like I missed out on something that I'll never get to be a part of. Not that it's not nostalgic and you couldn't share those memories because maybe they were good memories and things. But I just don't know that we realize that you are the sum of who you are is a whole lot more than just those stories. And by the way, the sum of who you're going to become, especially if you're sharing your vulnerability with this new person that's in your life, is going to be something completely new and different. And that is where you're headed. Like that's the journey and that's where you're going. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
Speaking of incredible, Fearless Road, ladies and gentlemen, the journey has begun yet again.
Woo!
We have gone down the Fearless Road with Cindy Austin of Austin Empowered and her incredible program at Lip Sync, which brings, a little bit of alignment with love and romance and our thoughts and our being present in a world where it's tough, in a scarce world, to find someone to share your life with, someone to share your journey with, especially on the Fearless Road.
It doesn't have to be. Up until now, Michael, you meant up until now.
Up until now, you can always pull the car over and let someone else in. Up until now, you can always ask Fear to take a back seat so someone can sit gunshot on the rest of this journey.
There you go.
Sorry, Fear. It's been fun, but this person's really cute, and I want them in the front seat with me. You know what I'm saying? You gotta make some space. So you gotta ask everybody. The committee that's in the head. They all gotta be like, get back there for a minute so I can, be vulnerable and present myself and offer some opportunity for love. Romance, which, is part of the journey, folks. Love and romance is part of fear. It's part of vulnerability. It's part of entrepreneurship. There are so many angles and so many facets to being a successful entrepreneur and a person in this world. And love and romance is a big part of it. So thank you for sharing your time with us today. Thank you for, of course. I mean, this is something I've been dying to talk to you about and trying to get us to this place, to share. So I'm glad that we did. I would love to look at ways to follow up with some of these things. Maybe I need to get into the program.
We got a good community. Come join it.
We do. So it's going to be good. So ladies and gentlemen, please thank our lovely guest, Cindy Austin. If they want to know more about you and they want to find out more, where can they go?
Lipsyncdating.com.
Lipsyncdating.com.
Yeah, lipsyncdating.com. And that's a great way to get in touch with me there. And then it's also linked to my private practice, which is austinempowered.com.
Excellent. Well, let's all be empowered. And for the rest of the day, if you have enough of it left, love yourself. Be a little compassionate, Sit back for a minute and recognize that you're vibrant and you're amazing and you share the space with the world and the rest of us, and we love you for it. So keep on going down that fearless road. Make sure you stop for potty breaks. Love you, everybody. Fun. Exactly. Love everybody. Thank you so much. Stay fearless, my friends, and be well. Hey, everybody. If you liked what you heard today, would you like and subscribe? Would you follow? Maybe share it with a few people that you think would be interested in listening to the Fearless Road podcast. We spend a lot of energy and time trying to have really good conversations about fear and the intersection of fear in our lives, especially where the intersection of fear comes in. It impacts our business. It impacts our choices and decisions. And I think this is an important conversation that needs to be had. And I know these conversations sometimes feel really long, but I think there's a lot of value in them. And I really appreciate it. If you stuck all the way to the end of this one, with Cindy Austin. I mean, we talked about love, and love takes a long time, people. This is a journey, and this was a good, long, deep, and enjoyable conversation. And I think, there were some amazing, wonderful little nuggets of wisdom in here. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. Love yourselves, love everybody, be good to one another, like, subscribe, follow, share, do all those incredible things. And remember, like I said, we've got this incredible event. It's on Facebook. The event is live and up there, and we're going to be having it in February. It's the Leadership Navigator 2024 event, celebrating women in entrepreneurship and all the amazing, incredible things that are coming in 2024 for us, for them. Yeah. So I'm really proud to be producing it. I hope you'll check it out. All right. Have a fantastic day. And as I always say, stay fearless.